Hello, I'd like to welcome you all to the March meeting of the Austin Herb Society. The Austin Herb Society is a wonderful, eclectic group of people who just love gardening and herbs in particular, whether for culinary purposes, medicinal, flower arranging, you name it. Today, we have a very exciting program by one of our most knowledgeable Herb Society members. And I'd like to introduce our Vice President of Programs, Aline Guillot, to introduce today's speaker. Aline?
Good morning, everyone. Our speaker today is Judith Craft, and her title of her presentation is Spring Herbs for Pollinators. Judith has been a member of the Austin Herb Society since 1988. She's volunteered in the herb garden at Zilker since 2005, and in 2011, Judith became a master gardener, so she has a wealth of knowledge to share with us today. Judith, I take it over to you now for your presentation.
Okay, thanks, Aline. Here we go. So, spring herbs for pollinators. This is just a little bit about myself and this wonderful thing that I got out of the Texas Monthly Magazine, I believe, which is a Texas flag made of wildflowers, which I think is really intriguing. Uh-oh, I'm not advancing. Karen, I might need your help. I'm not advancing the slides.
Try your mouse. Sometimes the mouse takes over, and see if you can advance it with your mouse, just clicking on the mouse.
Here we go. Thank you. That worked. So this is not your common parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme presentation. Because the Herb Society, I feel, is people that know about how to grow those herbs and what they're about, I'm taking a different approach. So we're going to talk about butterflies and pollinators and some of the herbs that attract these. The bronze fennel we plant at Zilker specifically for this caterpillar right here, the black swallowtail caterpillar, and the monarch caterpillar. Dill is the same way. Now fennel in the ancient Greeks used to crown Olympic champions with a wreath of fennel because it signified strength. There are other herbs that we would talk about too. Red dahlia. This is the red dahlia here. The tubers of the red dahlia plant have been eaten since 1525 was the first recording. And in 1963, it became the national flower of Mexico. There's something called a golden dahlia here that is a blow up. This is really a very small bottle brush shaped blossom, but I wanted to show the caterpillar that's on it and the ants that are on it. We kind of forget that ants can be pollinators too as they crawl around on plants. The golden dahlia is a native Texas plant and it is drought tolerant. It dries to a beautiful gold color. This whole little bottle brush blossom thing dries to a gold color. Black dahlia, which is one of my favorites, is a low growing, it's not exactly a ground cover, but it never gets higher than about 12 inches tall. It's got these beautiful little tiny lavender blossoms, and it has been planted for erosion control. So it's a good plant for that. The black dahlia is also the one that attracts this southern dogface butterfly. And you can see the dogface right here on the wing of the butterfly, which I think is very intriguing. Another plant we have at Zilker is the cat whiskers here. This is a beautiful plant. A friend of mine in Austin turned me on to cat whiskers years ago. And thanks to Kate Laura, we have been able to keep cuttings going in the herb garden. This is the third or fourth year that we're going to have, I hope, knock on wood, we will have cat whiskers again. It is an excellent source for butterflies, bees, and hummingbirds. And it has a long history of traditional medicinal use in Southeast Asia. And then we cannot forget the Texas star hibiscus. Now, in spite of its name, it is not a Texas native. It comes in the Lone Star, which is the white blossom. There's also a red Texas star hibiscus that you see much more commonly in landscape designing. And then the Kella is also called a toothpick plant. And this is one that attracts butterflies and bees. It's a nectar source. It has a fruit that they dry, and it's been beneficial for certain medicinal applications. Now we're in the blue field. So first we have the cornflower, which is a nectar source. It's also used to make tea. The prairie flax, which is a kind of a low growing, beautiful little plant. In some parts of Texas, you see fields and fields of these lovely little lavendery blue plants. The oil of the seeds has been made into a rub or ointment that has a soothing and lubricating properties. And this is the source of the edible flax seeds. It's also borage, which is this one. Borage has this really unique blossom. It is the host for the painted lady butterfly, which is this one. I don't know where its tag went, but this is the painted lady. And the leaves of the borage seeds are eaten. They can be steamed or eaten raw. The stem can be peeled and is used like a cucumber. It's a crispy cucumbery flavor. And the flowers are also edible. And at one Herb Society meeting a long time ago, I put these flowers into a small ice cube tray and floated them in a lemonade, and it really freaked people out because they're very unusual looking floating around in your yellow lemonade. The borage flowers can be added to a young man's drink, and it will give him the courage to propose, supposedly. Love in a Mist is this collection of flowers here. There are two different varieties. It is the nectar source for the queen butterfly and the Gulf fritillary here. There are two different kinds of Love in a Mist nigellas. There is the nigella, I think I have them both on here. One of them is called Black Cumin and the other one is called Love in a Mist. And the seeds of the plant have the scent of strawberry jam, and you can sprinkle them on bread and muffins or rolls before you bake them and have this wonderful aroma when your bread or muffins come out of the oven. In India, they use the seeds in sachets to keep bugs out of clothing. So they'll put them in a little bag and hang them in the closet or something. And then the nigella, the nigella is also used as a kiss me love charm. Its Arabic name means the seed of blessing. So that's a lovely one to plant. Catnip, which we see here covered up by guess who? The kitty. Catnip is a great source of nectar for the gray hair streak butterfly, which is this one, and other butterflies too. It's been used for 2,000 years. It's edible, it's used in salads. It can also be candied and used as a digestive aid after dinner. And it's used to help babies go to sleep. Very common use for catnip. Supposedly, if you hold catnip in your hand until it's warm, and then you hold someone else's hand, they will be your friend forever, which is a nice little lore that I learned. The artichoke plant blooming up here is a nectar source for butterflies and bees. And of course, we know its fruit is edible, but it's also being studied for cancer research. The cancer research people are using artichoke as an anti-cancer, and it's still in the experimental stage, but that just gives you an idea of what herbs can be used for and what herbs have been used for centuries and centuries. Texas bluebells, which are somewhat endangered because of our farming practices, but Kate Laura got us Texas bluebells, and we have had them in the garden for 2 springs in a row. And I'm hoping we will have them again because they are an excellent source for nectar for butterflies and the hummingbirds as well. And the roots of the bluebell are often used in medicinal purposes. And then blue lobelia. We planted a bunch of blue lobelia this year. Unfortunately, I think we lost a good portion of them to the frost We'll check tomorrow when we go to volunteer in the garden and see what's left. But they're a lovely little herb. You see them growing wild all over Colorado. It was a highly prized medicinal plant for Native American cultures. And there are 370 species of lobelia out there in the world. It's this particular one is the medicinal variety. So if you want to copy down that botanical name, because there are so many, if you're looking for the medicinal variety, this is the one to buy. African blue basil. This has become the hit of the Herb Society the last like 3 years, I believe. It attracts the great purple hair streak butterfly, which is what you see here. And this particular butterfly looks similar from the front and the back. It's hard to tell which is which, but this is only one butterfly. And this was actually taken at Zilker on the African blue basil that was there. You can make pesto with it. It's not the very best part of basil to use for pesto, but it does have a distinct color and taste if you're looking for some variety in your pesto making. This is one of the few basils that is a perennial. We hope. We're trying that right now to see if the stalks that we cut down will come back this spring. We've mulched them real well and crossing our fingers and hoping not that. It is a sterile variety of basil. So you don't plant the seeds, you take cuttings, but they root really easily. And then that's what we plant. The spicy globe basil here is little tiny leaves, and it makes hundreds and hundreds of little teeny tiny white blossoms. It's really pretty. And of course it grows in a ball. That's the globe shape. It adds a touch of spice to any of your dishes. And let's see, each plant grows into a compact ball. So the bell pepper basil is another one that we have at Zilker. We have all 4 of these basils at Zilker in the herb garden, or should have them all. The bell pepper basil is another perennial. It comes back year after year. We transplanted from the old herb garden the plants that are now in the staircase beds in the new near the rose garden at Zilker. It's a culinary use. It smells and tastes like bell peppers. And as you can see, the leaves are really big compared to most of the other basils. It is a mosquito deterrent. Most basils are mosquito deterrents. They say if you want to try to get rid of mosquitoes, plant basils around your patio or near your back door or your front door if you're trying to keep the mosquitoes away. This one over here is the Cardinal Basil, which we are hoping is also a perennial. We're not sure about that yet. We've cut it back, but I'm not sure it's going to come back. The leaves and the flowers are edible. This one is rich in vitamin K, iron, potassium, and magnesium. And if you plant basils near the door of your house or office, it's supposed to bring money into your home or into your business, which is always a good thing to have. Snapdragons. Who knew that snapdragons were an herb? Well, we learned this just last year, and we planted snapdragons. We planted them again this year, but I'm afraid the frost might have gotten them. They are the host to the common Buckeye butterfly, which is a really beautiful butterfly and very, very common here in Texas. The snapdragon flowers, not only do they open and close and snap for you, but they are edible and a source of vitamin C. They also, the flowers can make a green dye color. And it's used for making poultices on the medicinal variety area. The Cherokee believed that the plant signified good luck and that believing in yourself and being open to creative energy. So being proud of your abilities and achievements. So that's a lot for a little old snapdragon to be responsible for. Candy tufts. This is another new one that we planted last year without a ton of success, but we're going to try again this year. We think we've learned that, unfortunately, at Zilker, we have one side of the staircase that has a spray irrigation system and the other side that has drip irrigation system. And we're finding that several herbs don't like the spray irrigation. Staff's going to be working on giving us drip irrigation on both sides, but that hasn't quite happened yet. Candy tuft is important because it's a nectar source for the eastern tiger swallowtail and the giant swallowtail butterfly. Now, the giant swallowtail butterfly is the one with yellow with black stripes on it. That's really one of the largest butterflies you'll see. It's larger than the monarchs, actually. Then Italian oregano, of course, to cook with, which is a wonderful, wonderful plant. And the list of butterflies for the Italian oregano is massive. I'm going to send at the end, I will send the printed copy of this so you'll see how many butterfly it attracts. It's used all over the world by chefs and cooks. World War II veterans brought seeds back from Italy, and that's what changed American cooking forever. And that happened with a lot of herbs. When the soldiers came home from Europe, they brought back seeds for plants that were not used commonly in the United States at that point in time, but are now. And who can make Italian cooking without using oregano? Pliny, the famous herbalist who started recording things way back when, said that it was used in poultices, and he used to make an infusion from the flowers of the oregano plant, these little tiny beautiful white flowers that come. The ancient Greeks called it joy of the mountain. Beautiful name for a plant, huh? Kent Beauty oregano, this is one of my favorites. The Kent Beauty is not the one that you want to use for your culinary uses, but it puts out these gorgeous little pink blossoms. And as this dries up, it turns into almost a little pink, like Chinese lantern hanging from the plant. It's one of my favorites. It is deer resistant and heat tolerant, and just a joy in any garden, in my opinion. Now, some other culinary herbs, we have cilantro, which is a larval host, as well as the nectar source for the giant swallowtail butterflies. The leaves are used all over the world, and the dried seeds are coriander, which is also used in cooking all over the world. And they've been cultivated since the 2nd millennium BC. So a very old herb that we use in our cooking. Cilantro represents hidden worth. So that's a wonderful thing to add. So this would be if you were giving somebody a bouquet or a gift with some fresh herbs in a basket or something along that line, and you know that they have hidden worth, you might include that for them. Coxcomb, which is another herb which we don't necessarily recognize as an herb, is a nectar source for the Buckeye butterfly, hair streak butterflies, and painted lady, and the monarch butterfly. And we planted last year a variety pack. So we had this red, we also had yellow and orange coxcomb. And the number of butterflies in the herb garden are just amazing. The leaves and the tender young shoots of the coxcomb are actually edible. I haven't tried them yet. I'm not quite brave enough yet, but I'll probably will. And then Echinacea. Echinacea also has an incredibly long list of butterflies that it attracts. This white one is the white swan Echinacea, and what you're seeing behind it is what's called Peter's purple monarda that we had in the garden one spring. So this is from Zilker. The narrow leaf Echinacea over here is another butterfly attractor. And these are the roots. You learn that Echinacea is, when you're taking it medicinally, it's the root of the plant that they're using in the tinctures. These are short roots. I have seen Echinacea roots that are twice as long as these roots right here. And you see the little tiny beginnings of the plant here. So the Echinacea root is really a medicinal choice. Native Americans have been using it for 400 years. And the lore behind the Echinacea plants is that it is works well for drawing prosperity and wealth to you. So definitely plant that one. Chocolate daisy. This has become my favorite plant in the Zilker Herb Garden. These little red hairs here in the middle of the plant, if you brush your thumb across them, you get a chocolate smell. It is really unbelievable. It's planted at the very end of the line of the staircase bed so that everybody can have a little chance to check out the chocolate smell in the chocolate daisy. It can be used to flavor foods, but again, you're only using those little tiny red hairs, so it would take quite a bit. You'd have to plant a really big patch. And I think even their buds that are left, the seed pods that are left, this is in the green stage. These turn brown and they're very appealing. I think that it would look really nice in an arrangement. The stamens have been used medicinally by Native Americans to alleviate problems. It is a Texas native and an heirloom plant. It is highly deer resistant. And the roots can be dried and then they're burned to inspire courage. So if you were oh dear, now I'm in trouble. Hang on just a sec. I seem to be going the wrong direction here. There we go. Sorry, folks. Texas Blazing Star is another, it's also called gay feather. That's two slightly different varieties. And this one has the painted lady butterfly on it. It is a nectar source for the tiger swallowtail butterfly, the great spangled fritillary butterfly, and a host of others, as well as hummingbirds. The roots have a carrot flavor when blackened, and they were often eaten by native tribes. And you've probably seen fields of gay feather in Texas, so it's good to know that people were eating them at one point in time. The tea was made from the plants and used medicinally, and the roots were mashed and used and for their medicinal purposes topically. There are 435 species of Liatris in the world. Not all of them are edible and not all of them are medicinal. So you really have to be careful if you're out there harvesting. Be sure you get the right variety that is the edible gay feather. The leopard lily is another of my favorites. It attracts the monarch butterflies and hummingbirds. The berries are black, and they are used as a bitter, and medicinally it's considered a cooling herb. So like for people that would have a fever, it would be a cooling herb for them. Lemon verbena. The lemon verbena will grow, as you can see, into a small bush. It puts up multiple trunks so you can cut down and have it be shorter. It has an incredibly intense lemon flavor. These are its little flowers right here, these little white flowers. And it is just one of the most delightful scents. I used to have it planted in my garden right where my car door would open. So I would brush against it almost every day coming into the house. Just a lovely, lovely scent. It attracts the white peacock butterfly. And you might notice that sometimes the color of the butterfly and the color of the blossom of the plant are similar. So white butterflies are often attracted to white blossoms and orange butterflies to orange blossoms. It kind of works like that. Not always, but it certainly is a noticeable side effect. The lemon verbena leaves can be added to drinks or salad for their lemony fragrance and flavor. You can season fish and poultry with it. They used to put lemon verbena leaves in the finger bowls on a table at a formal dinner so that you could rinse your fingers between courses in the meal. And medicinally, it's used as a sedative or a tonic. Just a beautiful plant. The Mexican oregano, this is in the old herb garden at the end of the parking lot at Zilker. And I believe that plant is still there. I'm not sure. That garden has now become a hummingbird garden. And this is a great plant for hummingbirds as well as butterflies. You can use it in salsas or pozole. The branches are used to skewer seafood when you cook it on the grill. It's also good with poultry and vegetables. And in Belize, the leaves are dried and they're used to make a tea that is some refreshing tea. And it also treats minor medicinal problems. It's a native plant. It's not really an oregano, but it's used as an oregano in Mexican cooking. Then the Prairie Fleabane, which is a tiny little plant, attracts the American lady, the cabbage white, the eastern tiger swallowtail, and the pearl crescent butterfly. This is the native variety of fleabane, and the leaves have a soapy smell. The branches are often burned to smoke away fleas if there was a flea problem, and thus the name fleabane. Here's a picture of that common Buckeye butterfly that we talked about earlier, which is really amazing looking. Heartleaf hibiscus is another Texas native. It is nectar for butterfly and hummingbirds. It's drought tolerant, and it's a lovely little flower. Not nearly as big as some of the hibiscus flowers you see. The heartleaf hibiscus flower will be only about that big around, but it is a lovely little plant. And then cardinal feather. I first saw cardinal feather at the Wildflower Center. There is a male and a female version. This wispy one is the female, and the male version puts out these tiny little bottle brush flower blossoms, and those are literally this big. They are tiny, tiny little blossoms. The whole plant is very small. It is a nectar source. It's also called Texas chenille plant, and I think it's because of this male blossom that the chenille name. It produces, oh no, this is cardinal flower. Cardinal flower is this one here with the hummingbird on it. It's a nectar source also for the black swallowtail and other butterflies. And the Native Americans used its roots, stems, leaves, and flowers medicinally. So cardinal flower, another Texas native there. And the pheasant's eye. The pheasant's eye attracts butterflies and hummingbirds. It is used as a tonic medicinally, and it signifies sorrow and remembrance. So lovely little plant there. Goji berries. Chinese buckthorn is the plant name. And these are the goji berries that it produces. And they're eaten raw, or they can be dried. It says to wait until they actually fall off of the plant to harvest them, to eat them raw, because that's when they have their best sweetness. And if you've ever tried goji berries, you know they're not all that sweet. So, but they are medicinally, they're very good for you. They can be dried or they can be steeped for a tea. And then fragrant mist flower. This is the mist flower that is the native to Texas, the white blooming fragrant mist flower. The Greg's mist flower that you see everywhere that's kind of lavender in color, it is not a native to Texas. But the fragrant mist flower attracts hundreds of butterflies, especially the painted lady butterflies. It's also called bone set and is used as that. Let's see, it's got very delicate scent, but I had one in my front yard, and seriously, people walking down the street would walk up my sidewalk because there were so many butterflies on that one bush, and they would all fly at once, and it would be like hundreds of butterflies. It was really amazing. And then Mexican bush sage. This is not a Texas native, but it does attract the monarch, the queen, and the fritillary butterflies. The flowers can be used in cut flower arrangements. If you're cooking outside or you're just having a bonfire or a fire in your fire pit, you can toss a branch of this plant into the fire and it will ward off the insects, so you can enjoy your outdoors more. They've been used for medicinal purposes in the past, and they actually produce blooms late in the season. So they provide the nectar for the butterflies that are migrating south for the winter, which is a must. This is the queen butterfly and the queen butterfly larva. Now, the queen butterfly is often mistaken for a monarch butterfly, and I'll tell you the key between identifying the two. The monarch butterfly's white spots are all in the black portion of its wings. The queen butterfly's white spots are on the wing itself and in the black portion. And you'll notice that the queen's body is orange and the monarch's body is black and white. So those are two good keys to tell them apart. If you see them side by side, you'll notice that the monarch is a larger butterfly than the queen, but the queen is often mistaken for monarchs. Nasturtiums, one of my favorite plants. Aren't they sweet? They are edible. All parts of the plants are edible. You will often see the flowers used on your plate in a fancy restaurant or in your salad. They are a rich source of vitamin C. They are a good companion plant for cruciferous vegetables in your garden, and they are deer resistant. So go nasturtiums. Salad burnet. This is one that not everybody is familiar with. This is the blossom of the salad burnet plant. It's really pretty and tiny. And the salad burnet has been used for 400 years. It used to be used as a garnish in a glass of wine, much like a celery stalk is used in a Bloody Mary now. They would use a stalk of the salad burnet. Its medicinal powers were documented in the 1st century AD. Thomas Jefferson at his hillside home in Monticello was looking for something to help with erosion control and discovered that salad burnet was the answer to his problem. So it also can be used as erosion control. This is laurel leaf sage, another Texas native. It's a nectar source for butterflies and hummingbirds. The young leaves are edible. You can eat them raw or you can cook them, and they have a pleasant minty flavor to them. It's also used medicinally, therapeutically, and the roots were also used in topical applications. It loves shady areas, and it's a good choice for a ground cover. The shrubby St. John's wort, which I'm hoping to get into the Zilker Herb Garden this year, is also a nectar source. This St. John's wort is the medicinal variety. Now, St. John's wort is another one of those plants that has many, many, many variations and hybridations. But this is the medicinal one, the Hypericum perforatum. It's harvested on the 24th of June, which is St. John's Day, and it's used then to ward off evil. And they would send young girls out to harvest right after the moon had set, so very early in the day. Blackfoot Daisy is another really, really intriguing native Texas herb. It's a nectar plant, of course, and it's being also researched for its effect on human cancer cells. The Blackfoot Daisy has honey-scented flowers. It's deer resistant, it's heat tolerant, and it's drought tolerant. And the underside of the petals, as the blossoms age, the underside of the petals have these black lines that appear on it. And I think that's the Blackfoot. I've also been told that the Blackfoot is where the roots go right into the ground. They turn dark as the plant gets older. So it's maybe both of those things that are the Blackfoot Daisy, but a great little native plant to put in your garden. Texas frog fruit is another Texas native. It is a larval plant for the Phalon crescent, which is this butterfly here. Not one you see regularly in Austin, but every now and then they pop up. And if you plant this Texas frog fruit, maybe you'll have more that pop up. You can juice the whole plant and it's used medicinally. Silver germander is a nectar source for butterflies and bees. It was once used as a breath freshener by people. And then the small coastal germander here has a little bit different of a blossom on it. It was first collected in Cuba and brought to Texas. And now it's considered a Texas native because it's adapted. Milkweeds. We all know about milkweeds and monarch butterflies, right? There are so many milkweeds out there. I have gotten one of each on the screen for you here. Here's the monarch larva, and you can see how it's a little bit different than that queen butterfly larva. This one does not have red on its antenna. It's all black and white. And I tell the children on the school tours at Zilker that the monarch butterfly larva looks like your 3-year-old cousin painted it, and the black swallowtail butterfly larva looks like an artist painted it, because it's very precise. The lines and the colors, the black, yellow, and white lines are very precise on the monarch larva, but I mean on the black swallowtail larva, but not on the monarch larva. So milkweeds are essential to the monarch because the monarch butterfly lays its eggs on milkweed plants and begins the whole life cycle. It can also be eaten. The tender shoots can be cooked and eaten like asparagus, and a sweetener can be made from the honeydew of the flowers. An interesting fact, in World War II, I don't have a picture of the, see if I do on here. No, I don't have a picture of the seed pod of the milkweed, but it puts out a long seed pod that's full of these little white wispy seeds. And the fluff of those seeds was used to pad life jackets and flight suits in World War II. As we started running out of other materials available, somebody discovered that the seed pods from the milkweed worked just fine. The Native Americans made twine from the fiber of the stalks of the milkweed plants. So, pineapple sage is a wonderfully fragrant plant. It really likes a little bit of shade more than full sun. The leaves are edible. They have a very strong fragrance and taste. You can add them to your fruit sliced up, to salads, to tea, punch, or even cocktails. It's got this long tubular blossom, and this little guy, the hummingbird moth, as well as hummingbirds themselves, love these pineapple sage tubular blossoms for their nectar source. The pineapple sage signifies esteem and virtue. So Texas betony is up here. It has edible flowers that can be made into a tea, and it produces a green dye. The young leaves of the plant, like these little tiny guys here, were once used to make snuff, to make snuff. And it's used in charms as a guard against harm. Calamintha. So early on, Aline, you mentioned that the viola is herb of the year for 2022. Well, the calamintha was herb of the year for 2021. And we planted some at Zilker, and I'm hoping it will come back. It is a pollinator magnet. It draws all kinds of different butterflies to it. The leaves have a minty oregano flavor. It makes a sweet aromatic tea. And it's also used in cooking to flavor gamey meats and to make them more tasty. It was once used in traditional medicine in the Mediterranean region. It is native to Italy and Greece, and the Greeks also used it to extension range for for its extensive range of applications in medicinal herbs. The plant is deer resistant and drought tolerant, and the cats love it. This is Jokai weed. This pink blossom, it is a Texas native. It attracts the monarch, the tiger swallowtail, and the black swallowtail butterflies. And its leaves have a vanilla scent. Even if you just brush up against it, you will smell the Jokai weed's vanilla scent. Anise hyssop. Anise hyssop, for some reason, is much more hardy in Austin than the standard hyssop plant that's over here on the far side. It has that very licoricey smell to it. The leaves and the flowers are both edible, and it can be made into a tea. It is deer resistant, and you can plant it near your back door for protection. Moonshine yarrow is one of many varieties of yarrow. Its leaves and its flower have a spicy herbal aroma and a mild sweet flavor similar to tarragon. You can add it to vinaigrette for a tasty salad dressing, or you can add it to whatever you're cooking, and it adds that nice little hint of licorice flavor and aroma. You want to put it in right at the very end, as you do with a lot of herbs, because heat will actually destroy the flavor. So maybe even after you remove whatever you're cooking, your stew or soup or whatever, we remove it from the fire, wait a little while before you put the leaves in. Achilles was taught by a centaur to use this herb to stop bleeding and heal his soldiers' wounds on the battlefield. So that's its medicinal application. It is deer resistant and rabbit resistant, and it's drought tolerant. So a good choice for out in the country in Texas. You can add it to spells to ward off evil spirits. So red columbine, beautiful, beautiful little plant that likes the shade. The flowers are edible and have a sweet taste, and the seeds were used medicinally for a variety of problems, and the roots were used for gastrointestinal ailments. So many applications there. The red columbine symbolizes passion and love between romantic partners, which I think is so sweet. May night, which I mistakenly thought was a Texas native when we first planted it in the native Texas herb garden. It is not a Texas native, but it is adapted to our area. It has these beautiful purple blossoms. It says naturalists eat the tender young leaves in a salad. Now, when I read something like that, I read that might not taste too good. The naturalists are eating it, but maybe not you and me. It does have those indigo flowers, and the leaves are also fragrant and are often used in potpourris. And this plant is deer resistant as well, the May night. And then the hyssop, attracts butterflies, bees, and hummingbirds. You use it sparingly for cooking poultry because it can get bitter if you use too much. It has been used in the past to flavor spirits and liqueurs, such as absinthe and chartreuse. It has a strong camphor smell and has been used topically for medicinal purposes. And it was used to purge the temple in the biblical tale about Jesus running the moneymakers out of the temple. It's considered a powerful against the dark side in the lore of flowers. And that's what I have for you for pollinators, for spring pollinators. And now we're ready for questions. All these ladybugs want to know what you want to know.
Thank you, Judith. That was very informative. And we have a lot of questions, not a lot, but important questions and comments here. The first one is from me. I see that the name of the blue lobelia, the Latin name, has the word syphilitica in it. Was it ever used as a treatment for syphilis? Do you know if there's a
I bet it was. Now, when I gave this presentation to the master gardeners, I had to take out all of the applications medicinally. I can say it was used medicinally, but not specifically what for. And so that's been left out of here, but yes, it was used for that application for syphilis.
Thank you. Next thing, Judy S. got me started on, this is from Karen, I believe, from the Herb Society president. Judy S. got me started on African blue basil, best for syrup and bourbon. Yes, Karen, we know. You love your blue basil bourbon.
We keep hearing about that basil bourbon.
I know. And then Judy commented, Judy S said, I love this basil. I just use it as a planting. I had this butterfly this fall. Evidently, there's a picture of the butterfly that goes with the blue basil. So
Ah, the
had
African
seen
blue
that
basil.
also.
Yeah, that's that purple hair streak butterfly that's so remarkable, where the front and the back of it look similar.
All right. Another comment, you mentioned about how you were suspicious that the candy tuft, the white candy tuft, was not tolerating the water spray as well.
Right.
And that reminded me, I know that when I was growing white roses, they did not like to have water spray on them. And also camellias, the white camellias can't stand water spray. It turns them brown spots on the leaves.
Yeah,
So
it's
I
not
was
just
thinking
white.
maybe because the candy tuft is white, it might also get that same kind of reaction to the water spray. But
Well, that could be it. But roses in general do not like water on their leaves and on their blossoms. So the best way to water roses is either with a bubbler or with a drip irrigation. That's pretty much a given for all roses.
Okay. Sylvia asked, she says, isn't Liatris quite invasive? You didn't mention about whether it was or not.
You know, it's a wildflower. Let's see, where is Liatris? It's further down.
It's back a ways.
It's a wildflower. I have planted it with success in my yard and not have it be invasive. But I think out in the prairies where it can seed itself, it could become invasive. It's pretty easy to pull up if you get more than you want. This is a beautiful plant though.
Next question. Does lemon verbena get big like a small tree? Mine always died at small bush size. Could it use less sun? Might that have been the problem?
It probably could use less sun, yes. This image right here is about as tall as mine ever got, and mine was in the ground for 5 years in the same location. And but I was clipping it constantly. You know, I would clip off at the top to bring it inside to bring that wonderful lemony scent into the kitchen. You can control it. It does not ever get to be tree size. I would say bush size, like maybe 4 foot, 5 foot bush only.
Okay. I know I have lemon verbena soap. It makes a wonderfully fragrant soap that lasts the season, the flavor lasts in it. Okay, next question from Sylvia. Which hibiscus is perennial?
Well, let's see. The Moy Grande, and it's M-O-Y, not Muy Grande, but the man who hybridized that enormous red hibiscus that we have at Zilker, his name was somebody Moy. So it's Moy Grande. It's a red flower, and that is perennial. It was in the garden when the herb garden moved to its new location in 2017, and it comes back every year. We cut it down to, 8 to 12 inch stalks at the end of its blooming season, and it comes back the next year. So I would say definitely the Moy Grande. I would check the tags on the plants as you purchase them. Will tell you usually whether it's perennial or annual. And if it doesn't, it will give you the botanical name and you can look it up. You can Google it and find out for yourself. The Lunar Hibiscus that we've had at Zilker for a number of years, they're along the lower part of the herb garden, closer to the pond, the Rose Pond. Those have come back. Let's see, those went in 2018, but they're not looking too good this year. They did not do well with the freezing weather last year. So we might have to replant some of those for this year. We're going to see which ones come back and which ones don't, but we know that a couple of them, the root system has just turned to mush, and that's because of the freeze.
Okay, next question. I have frog fruit all over my yard out here in the hill country and see the Phaeon butterflies all the time. That was a comment from somebody.
Texas frog fruit, I have read, has been used to replace grass for some people because they'd rather have the butterflies and not mow. Now, it does die back in the winter. Like what's there right now at Zilker is all dried up. So you would have to be willing, if you planted it in big patches, you'd have to be willing to go through the 3 months of winter without much. But it does come back every spring and it just puts out these beautiful blossoms and attracts butterflies like crazy.
All right. I commented about pineapple sage. When I first discovered it, I have cooked it in with a ham that I was baking. If you don't happen to have pineapple on hand, you know, that goes so well with ham, you can definitely cook in the sage in the baking process. And I suspect you could make like a syrup from it too. Judith, what do you think about that?
Oh, I think you could use it for all kinds of different applications. It's a wonderfully fragrant leaves on the plant. Mm-hmm. And I often encourage people just to take a little sample of the leaf and chew on it and then try to tell me what they're tasting.
All right, here's one Lucinda mentioned. Holy basil is also a bee magnet, somewhat like African blue basil.
You know, I did all the milkweeds for the pollinators. I did not do all the basils. There are so many basils. And 2 years ago, when Karen suggested that we have a basil garden and we planted all these different varieties of basils, there are so many varieties out there and they all attract butterflies and bees. Okay. So they're all good for pollinators and for cooking.
Elizabeth asked, will milkweed come back? Elizabeth Meek wants to know. Depends.
Milkweed should come back. Some of the milkweeds I have found out in the country, this antelope horn milkweed can be somewhat invasive. The butterfly milkweed that we planted, Susan Norwood gave us a plant year before last, and it came back. It has come back and it has seeded itself into an adjacent bed now. So I would say that definitely would come back. I'm not familiar with some of these milkweeds to know. I have tried for years to get this rose milkweed going and have not been able to bring it to even a full plant stage. It's a little more difficult. And I talked to the butterfly guy at Zilker, Matt Morris, and he's had trouble too with some of the milkweeds trying to get them propagated. So some are more challenging than others. I think this Engelmann milkweed is a pretty reliable milkweed to plant. So you'll have to just try experimentally and see. And sometimes what's available at the nurseries, especially if you're shopping the local nurseries, what's available is usually going to be what's going to perform the best for you, because they tend to not carry the ones that come from afar that don't do well here.
Hey, Elizabeth also had a question about Greg's mist, asking if it's good to put in shade.
The fragrant mist flower, this white one, I had in full sun. I see Greg's mist flower in full sun more often than in shade. So I'm going to say they require full sun.
All right. Now we have a couple of questions that I'm going to work into two. Someone was asking, can all of these plants be grown successfully in Texas, or is this a more general list, not related specifically to our area? And that ties in with a comment that Karen said to ask you about how people can tell in the garden which are Texas native plants and which are not.
Oh, I'm so glad you asked that question. Now, the first answer is that the majority of plants in this program are in the Zilker Herb Garden. Okay, so yes, they are Texas. They can be grown in Texas. And I don't know if you can see this little teeny, let's see, can you see that little teeny tiny shape of Texas there in my fingers? We are in the process, when it warms up, which is like right now, we will be putting one of these on the name tag of the plant. Can you see it right there? Of course, it's backwards because it's the photograph, But this is the one for the wine cups that we've got. So if you see those little Texas on the name tag of the plant, then that's a Texas native. I've been trying for years to figure out how to mark the Texas natives, because in the old herb garden, we had a specific area where they were all planted together. In this garden, we don't have that option. And so they're scattered about. And so you'll have to look for those little Texas signs. But I was afraid that the adhesive would not work during the cold weather. And so I wanted to wait until it warmed up. So we'll be working on that in the next month or two to get those all marked. With the exception of, let me see, the St. John's wort is not in there yet. The milkweeds are not in there, but with the exception of those, almost everything else you're seeing is in the herb garden. Oh, the leopard lily did not come back. But we've had most of these plants are in the herb garden at Zilker, or will be after we plant for the spring.
Okay. Another comment about milkweed is from Lucinda about the milkweed seeds. She said, need to be exposed to low temperatures for a period of time. You can put them in the refrigerator before planting them. Janet mentioned that her fragrant mist flower is in partial shade and does okay. It just gets leggy. Okay.
Yeah.
So
and it probably won't bloom as much in partial shade as it would if it had more sun.
Absolutely. And another comment from, I think, Karen, that frog fruit can be a great ground cover as well. And
yeah. And
so
that's what I was mentioning. It can be planted as grass.
Aha. And okay, I believe those are the questions. Let me look down towards the end here. Kate Alsobrook said, what a superb program this is. One of the best ever, Judith. Diane Salazar said the same thing. She said she's going to look for some of the plants that you mentioned. Let's see. Oh, here's one final question from Bonnie Orr. She said, when you see eggs on the underside of leaves, is there a way to know if they're good bugs or bad bugs? That's a good question.
That if you were Wizzy Brown, yes, you would know, but I don't. You pretty much have to be let's see, what is it? It's not an entomologist. It's maybe it is an entomologist.
It is an entomologist
that studies insects,
bugs.
then you would know. Yeah, you can also, I have found that you can find a lot of good photographs on the internet. So I know that the monarch eggs are very white, and that's kind of unusual because some of them are more creamy colored and brownish colored, the eggs of some of the insects that you don't want. But I would definitely, there's also something called iNaturalist where you can take a close-up picture of the underside of the leaf and put that on iNaturalist, and it will try to identify it for you. There's 2 or 3 apps like iNaturalist that I just happen to download that one, and I use it all the time.
That's a wonderful answer. Thanks for that tip, Judith.
Sure.
Let's see. We have more compliments on the presentation. How wonderful it was. One of the best ever. And okay. Suzanne Cockrum says that there are about 60 plants to get to know. Quite a program, Judith. So I believe we're going to end it there.
Okay.
It's been wonderful. Thank you so much for such an informative program, just chock full of wisdom and knowledge. Thank you.
Well, I'm glad y'all enjoyed it. I really love putting these things together because I educate myself every time I put a program together because I'm always looking stuff up. Now, one thing I'll tell you, just one more little thing here with this Texas star hibiscus on the screen. The first year we planted this plant at Zilker, we put it right on the staircase. And before it had a chance to blossom, you see this leaf back here? That is a 5-pointed leaf that looks very much like a cannabis leaf. And so we came on a Wednesday to work, and somebody had come along and taken off the top like foot or 18 inches of the plant. And I was like, oh boy, they're going to be really surprised when they roll that up.
Was that you, Lucinda?
Anyway,
thank you.
a little
Thank you.
comedy there at the end.
One final tidbit. Thank you. So Karen, we're going to turn it back over to you, my dear. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you, Judith. That was a great example of the knowledge, wisdom, and humor that is within the Austin Herb Society members. So I hope that those of you who are joining us today or watching this video will consider joining the Austin Herb Society, and that you'll also consider coming to our plant sale on April 2nd, where we're going to have more of our members sharing their wisdom and then give you an opportunity to purchase some of the plants for your own garden. So thanks everybody for joining today.